In our last section, we talked about the different types of water pollution. And now, in this final section, we're going to talk about how water is managed in the United States to prevent pollution and ensure that water is safe to use and safe to drink. Collectively, these measures that are taken to limit pollution and ensure water safety are called water management. Water management is a challenging task because it's so complex. It's complicated by the fact that waterways and bodies of water are highly interconnected. For example, in this image, you can see the interconnectedness of waterways in the Southwest. This map shows the Colorado River watershed. We've mentioned watersheds previously in this chapter, but to refresh your memory, a watershed, also known as a drainage basin, is an area of land that drains into a single outlet and is separated from other areas by drainage divides. So, when we're talking about the Colorado River watershed, we are saying that all of the land in this region, all of its rivers, streams, and lakes, they may exist separately, but they are connected and they all merge into the Colorado River, which drains in the Gulf of California. When we are talking about eutrophication, we also saw that image of the massive Mississippi River watershed and the point where it consolidates and drains into the Gulf of Mexico. So, because of the interconnectedness of the waterways in various regions, water management often takes place at the watershed level. This is more effective than trying to manage pollution in a single section of a river or a single lake because those rivers and lakes are interconnected to other areas, and water pollutes the river upstream translates into pollution downstream. So, a broad approach is needed to really be effective at managing water pollution. Watershed management can take place in two different ways. Voluntary management is where local and regional governments voluntarily get involved with an organization that provides guidance and funding for watershed management. And regulatory watershed management means that the management occurs at the direction of government laws about water quality. So let's talk about what those laws are surrounding water quality in the US. The early stages of water quality regulation trace all the way back to 1899 when the Rivers and Harbors Act was passed to prohibit the dumping of solid waste into waterways, largely because for that reason that it could obstruct those waterways. This act was very limited in its attempt to address water pollution because it did not include regulation on waste flowing from streets and sewers, which of course is a major source of water contamination. In 1948, the Federal Water Pollution Act was passed, which added regulation of sewer discharge to the laws on the books. The goal here was to reduce contamination of groundwater and surface waters. Then, in 1972, the Clean Waters Act was passed. The Clean Water Act was a sweeping piece of legislation that today remains the primary set of laws addressing water pollution at a federal level. The Clean Water Act overhauled its predecessor, the Federal Water Pollution Act, and established regulations for industrial and municipal discharge of pollution into waterways. It ultimately established a partnership between the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, at the federal level and state and tribal governments to ensure that there was broad compliance with requirements of minimizing pollution and ensuring clean water. Under the Clean Water Act, organizations or local governments have to get a permit from the EPA if they want to discharge pollution into a body of water. And if companies or municipalities are found to be violating the regulations set out in the Clean Water Act, then the federal government has the power to enact fines or level civil or criminal charges. So the Clean Water Act is the big one. But the Safe Water Drinking Act came about a few years later, and it's also very important. The Safe Water Drinking Act established allowable levels of chemicals in water supplies that are distributed by public water utilities. So, what concentration of various chemicals is considered safe to be included in public water supply? For example, the standard for maximum concentration of arsenic is 10 parts per billion, meaning that in a sample of water, up to 10 out of every 1 billion molecules can be arsenic, and water that exceeds that concentration is in violation of the standard. That's just one example. And water management agencies have to monitor an extensive list of chemicals and parameters in a water supply to ensure that it's up to standards. This list here provides some common water quality parameters that are measured: the pH of the water, the concentration of carbonate, nitrate, phosphate, the algae content, the concentration of bacteria, the concentration of chlorophyll, etc. This list is not at all comprehensive, but it gives you a sampling of just a fraction of what goes into the intensive process of continuously checking and maintaining a safe and high quality supply of water in the US.